Thank you.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another SEMrush webinar. Today we've got Rory Hope and Vanessa Davis for an astonishing insight into how to improve performance with audience-first SEO and content strategy. I personally really want to hear this. I've seen what Rory's going to talk about. I've seen his slide deck. I've talked to Vanessa about this, and this is going to be really groovy. I've also seen Rory's slide deck and know that it's got a lot of slides in it. So I want to be really clear that you can download the slide deck. You'll be able to see it after the event. You can watch the webinar back in your own sweet time. So if you don't keep up with all the stuff that Rory's sharing, which is an astonishing amount of practical, useful advice, a process, he says, then you can watch it back and pick all those points up, and you can get the slide deck. So don't worry about it. And also, as you're listening, any questions you have, any questions that occur to you, pop them in the chat. We're going to try to answer as many as we possibly can. Rory's agreed to keep down to 20-25 minutes so that we have a good half an hour to listen to what Vanessa and Rory have to say. And I might even pop in with some comments too of my own. So welcome everybody. I can see there's people from Oregon, from Scotland, from Atlanta, all over the world. And the nice thing about Paris, France, that's where I am. And as you can see, night is falling. The light is going to fall here. I think it's a little bit early in the UK. So welcome. Please do ask your questions. Do remember you can watch this back, so don't freak out if you can't actually keep up with what Rory's saying. Rory, lovely to meet you.
Hello. Hi, Jason. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here.
Yeah, you're a bit of I don't know how a high flyer. You've gone from you were working at Fremantle Media and you've moved up and up and up and up and up and up. And now you're director of inbound marketing at Symmetrical.
Yeah. Well, it's been a fun journey. I think I had university somewhere sandwiched in there. But those years I can't really remember too much. Yeah, I've been at Symmetrical for 7 years now, since we were a single desk in 2014, and being part of the team as we've grown into where we are today as an award-winning agency. And we're happy to be here. Really looking forward to it.
Brilliant. And that was a single desk with just you at it, or there were three or four of you around the desk?
My dear colleague, who is our director of organic marketing, Benjamin Beckwith, who has been a mastermind of a lot of the processes that we're also going to talk through today.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, I like Benjamin already. Right, Vanessa, lovely to meet you. I know you've had about a gazillion jobs. I mean, I looked through your LinkedIn profile and I just got lost and gave up after a while. Can you give us a quick, brief description of where you come from, how you ended up where you are?
Sure. Thank you, Jason. It's lovely to meet you as well. So as you can see from my LinkedIn profile, all my experience is in digital marketing, and I've kind of done all the different things that you do, so graphic design and web development, and that led me to SEO. And now I'm an SEO manager at Blue Array, which is one of the UK's biggest SEO agencies. And in South Africa, before we moved here, I had my own very small content SEO agency, which is where I really honed my skills and developed my passion for content and audiences.
Brilliant stuff. Yeah, we had a chat last week, and you know a lot, so this is going to be great. And then Rory and I had a chat yesterday with you. Rory knows a lot, and his presentation is going to blow your socks off. No, you don't say that. Blow your hat off, knock your socks off, astonish you, impress you. So, Rory, I think we can move on pretty quickly now onto your presentation. If you could show your screen.
Yep.
I can pass this over to you. You give your presentation. While he's setting out that, do remember, ask your questions, pop them in the chat boxes, whatever platform you happen to be on, and we'll try to get to them. Rory, off you go. I'll leave the
fantastic
hand to you, I was going to say, and that's the wrong term, isn't it? I've got all the wrong terms
socks
today.
To me, or? No, yeah, got it, hands.
I'll pass over to you. Thank you. Off you go.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jason, and thank you, Vanessa and SEMrush, for having me here today. So we're going to talk through how to improve performance with audience-first SEO and content strategy. And this is an approach that we adopt here at Symmetrical for developing our SEO and content strategies for our clients. What we're going to cover today, so we're going to talk about what the benefits are of an audience-first SEO strategy, the keyword and audience intelligence integration process. A lot of SEOs are familiar with the keyword intelligence process we're going to outline, but it's really about understanding the power of audience intelligence and how you can go about integrating the two to develop better SEO strategies. And we're going to talk about that integration process and how you can then go about formulating what we're calling audience-first SEO. And then we're going to go
before you start, could you just ping off the little box at the bottom?
Yes, apologies, Jason. There we are.
Just in case it covers something important. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. So, and then we're going to go into how to optimize towards an audience-first SEO strategy, how you can go about coordinating an audience-first SEO strategy, and what do you need, mainly in terms of tech stack, to start to formulate that SEO, audience-first SEO strategy. So first off, so what is audience-first SEO? In a nutshell, it's about integrating search engine data from the likes that you can get in SEMrush, in Google Ads, in Search Console, traditional keywords data intelligence, and combining it, integrating it with social media behavioral data. And social media behavioral data is what tools like, well, audience intelligence tools like Audience, who are our preferred partner, enable you to access, and then taking that into social listening platforms like Pulsar and Meltwater to build more effective SEO strategies that don't just rely on keywords and links for their development, which is a lot of the sort of traditional processes of developing SEO strategies. So throughout, we're going to talk about the process, but in relation to an example. So at Symmetrical, we have extensive experience in the UK property industry. So I'm going to use that as an example because everyone's familiar with the property industry and searching for properties, even if you're in different locations. So in the UK, we have 4 main portals. We have On the Market, Rightmove, Zoopla, and Prime Location. Now, if you're an SEO working for one of these property portals, you're likely going to see very quickly in your keyword intelligence that the common keyword structure is X number of property type in location, 1-bed flat, London, for instance. Now that's going to be your common keyword structure. It'll probably be 80 to 90% of the keywords in that you identify, and that will be hundreds of thousands, if not millions, depending on where you are. And then if you then look as an SEO and go, okay, well, I also want to target those niche keyword segments that could yield strong revenue or good leads, for instance, in the luxury property keyword segment, which would be penthouses for sale in London, for instance, as one keyword, or in the new homes keyword segment. So those luxury property and new homes would be 2 additional niche keyword segments to your main common keyword structure. Well, to target that effectively, you're going to need to develop content and digital PR strategies that are tailored, hyper relevant to those keyword segments, luxury, new homes, and there'll be others. You can't just adopt the same strategy as you would do for the common keyword structure. That would be myopic, and you would not yield the same level of results as you would if you did adopt this tailored keyword level approach. So how does audience-first SEO then help, and what are the benefits? So number 1, you can understand keyword level search audiences by gathering behavioral insights using social consumer segmentation data from audience intelligence research. Number 2, you can develop enhanced keyword level content strategies and SEO topical modeling that's been informed by that integration of traditional keyword intelligence and emerging audience intelligence insights. And 3, you can then prospect hyper relevant influencers and link opportunities at scale efficiently per niche audience or search audience within a given keyword segment that's important to your business. And we've seen that this is a common pain point across SEOs. I've been involved in many campaigns where this can be a challenge in developing good link opportunities at scale efficiently. Well, this should help to solve it. So what are we talking about? Well, essentially, we're going to be using Google's algorithms as a identifier of exactly which entities you should upload into an audience intelligence platform like Audience. So through that process, we'll basically be identifying from Google which websites, they could be different types of websites, rank well for, let's say, luxury property, let's say new homes. And then we will upload those entities into an audience intelligence report, and it focuses our analysis and our insights into that space so that we can get better insights that will allow us to develop better keyword level content and digital PR strategies that will obviously help turn the needle with SEO. So the keyword and audience intelligence process. So we're all very familiar, most likely, with the keyword intelligence process, keyword research, SEO gap analysis, or search landscape analysis, and then developing your keyword targeting strategy. So what's the audience intelligence process and how does it integrate? Well, when you get to stage 2 of your keyword intelligence process of the SEO gap analysis, this is when you'll start to integrate in audience intelligence reports on those entities that rank best in Google for the keyword segments that are important to your business. And you'll do this at a keyword level. So you do it for luxury property, you do it for new homes, you do it for any other keyword segment that's important to your business. Because you can get different insights and you're going to be able to then take that and identify all of the influencer entities that are important to the people that search around the given topic that's important to your business, like luxury property or new homes in the property industry example. And that will then help you to develop a audience-first SEO strategy that's fully in line with your keyword targeting strategy that as SEOs we're so familiar with and know is so important. It's basically about focusing in your audience insights around a tried and tested and important method of improving SEO performance, which is making sure you do focus on the keywords, but don't forget the audiences. So we're integrating in audiences into the process and thinking audience first. So how do you then go about integrating keyword intelligence and audience intelligence? So again, let's look at the UK property industry. If I went and uploaded my direct competitors, if I was an SEO for on the market, I'm going to upload Rightmove, Zoopla, Prime Location. I'm going to upload my websites, my Twitter profile. You'd upload the Twitter profiles of all of these entities and competitors into a tool like Audience. What you're going to get back is actually nothing that's that useful at this stage, because you haven't gone through the process yet. So you'll see you've got beautiful friends as a sort of bio keyword cluster. It's basically the mass B2C UK property search audience. You've got fashion home, which are the sort of property enthusiasts. You've got writer views because it's a political segment, and then a sort of spam segment there too. So in Audience, you'd be able to delve into that in more detail. We'll go into that in a second. But to me, where I'm looking as an SEO to develop an SEO strategy, a tailored keyword level content digital PR strategy that will improve my ranking for luxury property keyword segment and for the new homes keyword segment, that's not going to be enough. So, because if you can see here, you know, those segments that we see, that there's not really much in there that's going to be like, okay, I'm going to track these influence entities and develop a more coherent strategy as a result. So you don't get the granular insights. You can't formulate the digital PR campaigns at a keyword level for luxury property, for new homes and commercial in our example. So what do you do next? We need to undertake keyword intelligence first to identify which social profiles to analyze per keyword segment. So if you don't undertake that process, you won't know what to upload. It's like a market research company will focus a lot on the methodology of recruitment. It's exactly the same here in digital. If you're an SEO department, you get this new audience intelligence or social listening tool, the potential is amazing, but the issue is you haven't gone through the right process to integrate it all in to get the best results. So starting with keyword research, we'll fly through this because I'm sure quite a lot of people are very familiar in the SEMrush audience with keyword research. Keyword research involves keyword identification, keyword segmentation, and keyword cleaning. Keyword identification, tools you can use, SEMrush, of course, Google Ads data through APIs into these various tools. If you have access and you're paying, then of course you can gather your own data there. Search Console gives you some useful search query data. And then we generally like to bring everything to Excel and then start to segment our keywords. So if we're the UK property portal, this is very important because we know that Google analyzes keyword topics or segments differently dependent on their overall topic or subtopic and then specifically intent within that. So for the UK property industry, we'll have our dimensions like property type, and that might be houses, that might be flats. You can see an example for houses, and then houses for sale being a keyword. We would tag up into the houses segment. Then you've got a different dimension, luxury property, and then you'll have different keyword groups within that. So let's look at penthouses for sale being an example keyword. And finally, in the example, we'd have new homes, and new builds would be a specific tagged group of keywords within that, new build homes being an example. We're going to want tailored content and digital PR strategies for these various keyword segments as we've been talking about. And this process will help us to get better insights and better performance. So then we're going to move on to our SEO gap analysis. This is crucial in the keyword intelligence process, and it will determine which entities to upload into your audience intelligence report. It consists of competitor gap analysis, search engine results page intent, template analysis, and then keyword prioritization. So now is when you start to integrate in the audience intelligence process. So what we're going to do is we're going to overlay onto our SEO gap analysis, our audience intelligence report insights. So we're going to upload the SEO competitors per keyword segment that are important to our business into an audience intelligence tool like Audience. That will enable us to gather affinity data and social media behavioral data for the search audiences, or personas, you might be more familiar with that term, at a keyword level, for luxury property, for new homes, for any other segment that's important to your business. And then you can spot the keyword segments audience overlaps, which is supremely powerful if you're working cross departments. For instance, SEO, PR with different objectives, some more on audience, others on keyword rankings, or traffic and conversions at a keyword level. So what's the process for competitor SEO gap analysis? We have a guide on symmetrical, and we talk heavily about how you can use SEMrush during this process. But you're going to undertake your keyword research. You're going to tag your keywords based on the topic or subtopic that they're relevant to. We just talked through that. You're going to then use SEMrush to get your keyword rankings, the competitors that rank well, which websites, they don't have to be direct competitors, which SEO competitors, i.e. entities in the search results, rank well for those keywords that you've uploaded into grouped tags or segments. Transfer them into Excel and format them, and then you can pivot table, where you can create pivot data based on who performs best per tag, and then suddenly you can get, okay, who are the best performers? Who are the best which websites are ranking for the greatest number of keywords at the lowest average ranking position for the keyword segments that are important to my business? So in this instance, we're looking in at luxury property. You can see here, we haven't included average keyword rank, because of course that will probably correlate quite closely. But the entities at the bottom that rank for the greatest number of keywords that we tag as luxury property. In the UK, anyone who's based here or around might be familiar with Savills, Knight Frank, Sotheby's Realty, Christie's Real Estate, Luxury Estate. Suddenly we can start to identify the SEO competitors to use to inform our upload into our audience intelligence report. But you're going to need to do a bit of cleaning, bit of housekeeping. It's spring. So if we look at luxury property, you can see here, it will be giving you the websites. Make sure you find the corresponding Twitter handle, because audience intelligence platforms focus on social data, and we're going to look at the followers of function within a tool like Audience to get our audience insights. So in this instance, we're not going to want to include the likes of Prime Location, On the Market, and Rightmove, because their audiences are too broad. We saw earlier the audience that follow them, it's just too broad. It's going to dilute the insights, So what we're going to do is we're going to clean through and pinpoint those entities and their Twitter accounts that reflect luxury, because we're going to want to really focus in our analysis. And then you can go into a tool like Audience and upload those entities under a followers of audience insights report, and filter it to the geographical location of that's important to your business. And you'll probably be different. So if you're looking at the same keyword segment in the US or France, you'll have different entities. So you want to create this report for each location. And then voila, so the tool will create it for you in 10 minutes or so. And suddenly you can see that, if remember back to the previous report, where we just uploaded up direct competitors, there wasn't really much value in that. You need to go through this process if you're an SEO to get to the granular insights. So if I'm looking at luxury property as an SEO, I want to understand the luxury property seeker. I want to understand their influence entities. I want to know where I want to get my links from for better relevant links, for more relevant links. And you can see we've got real estate, commercial property, you've got rural agricultural groups, you've got letting and estate agents, you've got planning and housing groups, and then you've got these 3 keyword bio clusters of Twitter accounts that all of these share the same characteristics, and they've been clustered in together. South Devon, Wales, Cardiff, and Scotland Yard. So we're going to drill down. We're going to go, who is the luxury property seeker? I'm going to investigate those segments and see if I can pull together some data to understand who they are. So I'm going to drill down into those segments, and then I'm going to look in Audience for each one at the influencer entities, or as Audience calls them, affinities, which are basically other Twitter accounts that cluster of Twitter handles that share the same characteristics engage with at a big data analysis regularly. So they favorite them, they retweet them, they quote retweet them, they reply, as an indicator of a strong affinity to, say, the housing and planning groups. It will be very different to the Scotland Yacht Group or the letting and estate agent group. So what that allows us to do is then develop our keyword level search personas. Now at Symmetrical, we're actually developing our AF SEO tool, which is an Audience-First SEO tool. We're exporting this data, and then what you can do is get it into an Excel file and start to analyze the patterns. So if the report has a notable affinity, so if there are entities that have a notable affinity for a segment that's important to your business, for a keyword that's important, you can filter down and identify the influence entities that are influencing the luxury property seeker in the UK. And this is all data-backed audience research in line with the keyword segments that are important to your business. And then from that, you can start to develop keyword level search audiences with relative ease. So I've been involved in projects before where, we've created buyer personas, I think everyone's been there, and you kind of like, it's a bit fluffy, oh, they must like, beer or this or that. But this is data backed through a process. Okay, the niche luxury property seeker likes prestige. They might have a house by the coast. They potentially work in law, in investment. They might have a child at private school here in the UK. They like art, culture. They read the Financial Times, How to Spend It. And that's through this process. This is all data back. We could look at this and determine the affinity scores. If we then changed and looked at the residential and letting agents that are active in the luxury property and new homes keyword segment, we get their influence entities, as you can see on the screen here. People we want to target for backlinks, build relationships with, partnerships. And then new homes. If we filtered across to the new homes group, we can look at the housing and planning search audience segment, construction, regen, infrastructure and architects. And we're going to want a different strategy to engage these influence entities. So we've got a template where you can actually identify you can build out your audience to keyword overlaps and differentiation points. So I do encourage you, when we share this afterwards, to have a look at that. So then at this point, we're going to want to start to develop our keyword targeting strategy, which involves developing your SEO content plan, clustering your keywords, and then establishing a backlinks and PR strategy. It's at this point that we're going to start analyzing our influence entities by undertaking social listening on the top 1 to 5%, content analysis on those same influence entities, and then developing our SEO topical modeling content plan, or topic modeled content plan. So after creating that audience report, if we drill down into the new homes keyword segment, we'll be able to identify all of the other influence entities, not just those that rank well in Google, but all of the other entities that then the followers of those that rank well in Google also engage with for new homes or for luxury or for any keyword segment that's important to your business. And then you can see here we've got the affinity scores, we've got the likes of RICS, Royal Institute of Architects, Architects Journal, House Builder, Future Build, and this is for the new homes keyword segment. We're going to want to develop, as the SEO department of a UK property portal, a specific new homes keyword level content digital PR strategy. So we're going to use a tool like Pulsar for social listening. You can also use Meltwater, we use them as well, to basically upload those entities into a social listening platform. And then you can set up dashboards for each keyword segment that's important to you to have these insights and real time streaming through to your content digital PR teams. And suddenly you're using social behavioral data, social insights, social listening to inform content you produce for your website that are in line and link back to your SEO pillar pages, or come up with backlink and creative campaign ideas for more relevant backlinks. So as an example, apologies for the text heavy slide, but if you look at content ideation then for new homes, I'm seeing in the tweets sustainability is important, politics, business leadership, design and architecture, insurance, risk, property investment. Some just very quick title ideas, political party comparisons, who's vested most in new homes and where, how do new homes compare to older homes for sustainability, and how has COVID-19 reshaped property development investment. And if you have these insights streaming through to your content and digital PR teams, your SEO team, if you're all one team, sometimes you're compartmentalized, you know that your work is delivering on the keyword strategies that are important and the keywords you want to target. So let's look at new homes. If we look at the new homes hub page here, this is the page that we want to rank for the priority money pages for new homes. And you can see how we can build out a topical modeling plan using those insights, thinking about the audience first development. So you can start to build out all of the supporting blog posts that aren't just based on informational keywords that can get quite dry quite quickly. And you can run through them. Yes, you can update them for evergreen, but you're going to want new content ideas on an ongoing basis. And this is where your keyword intelligence informs your audience intelligence and social listening and fuels your content and digital PR campaigns. And we're almost there. This is a plan that you can download that will help you to build out this audience-first SEO strategy. And then the final piece here is formulating that long-term audience-first SEO strategy. So ongoing content analysis of the keyword level search audiences, digital PR targeting of those influencers for each keyword level search audience, and do regularly refresh your keyword intelligence using SEMrush, and of course audience intelligence using the likes of Audience. Finally, or second to finally, how do you coordinate an audience-first SEO strategy? Well, here's a planner where you can start to look to map audiences to keyword segments, and then break down the pain points and areas of interest. You get creative. I love a good graph, like a good table like this. And you download this out and make it relevant to your business. And finally, what do I need to start formulating? Mainly from a tech stack perspective. Well, from technologies and tools, we're all very familiar with SEMrush, a fantastic tool for keyword intelligence and many other things. And do use them during that part of the process. Of course, Google Search Console, Google Ads, get manual, get it into Excel, use those pivot tables. We've got guides on our website to help with this process. And then audience intelligence and social listening. We use Audience. It's a fantastic tool for this. This process references the platform's process. And then you've also got Pulsar Meltwater for the likes of social listening and media monitoring. And ultimately, hopefully that's going to help you to develop an audience-first SEO strategy. Just before I hand back to Jason, of course, here at Symmetrical, I'd love to hear from you if you do want to talk, get into the nitty-gritty details of how we can help to develop one for your business. So yeah, thank you very much for your time, everyone.
Absolutely brilliant. Amazing insights. I mean, it's quite difficult to follow at that speed, but as I said earlier on, everyone can watch this back. I think I probably will, and you can have a look at the slide deck. Vanessa, can you give me some thoughts on that? Or give us all some thoughts on that. I mean, you've obviously been looking into what Rory's going to be talking about or was talking about. What are your thoughts?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Jason, and thank you, Rory. That was really comprehensive. I think from my perspective, we've always focused heavily on audiences, and we have used a lot of social listening tools, including the very manual start a Facebook group and ask questions type of approach back decades ago when I started my agency. And it's so valuable because it becomes this amazing circular loop where you create great content for your audiences. It brings people to your website, but it also creates a tribe online. And as Seth Godin likes to tell us, tribes are really where we need to focus because it's kind of the future of humanity in a way. So for me, it feels like it's almost a noble act to be doing this kind of work beyond just marketing.
Brilliant. And kind of that whole question of listening to your audience rather than looking at the keywords, Rory, I mean, that's obviously your obsession. You can hear it in what you're saying. Is a lot of people just look at the keywords and say, I want to rank for that because there's lots of volume. And you're saying, listen to your audience, rank for the right words.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a balance between using your keyword intelligence to know from intent and your competitors where your battlegrounds are in SEO, but then to really effectively turn the needle. You're going to want to listen to the pulse of what the influencers of that audience or the audiences that search around the topic that's important, the keyword topic. What are they talking about? What matters to them? Because if you have your digital PR teams and your creatives on the pulse, it's much easier to turn around data press releases, turn around, we've got the CEO or the expert in this. There's just been a post for a relevant publication for, luxury of property. Let's get featured. And then you get featured and you see the dial turn more on SEO than if you didn't adopt a very targeted approach.
Right.
And finally, actually, one thing to point out is we have before trialed keywords, upload them into a social listening tool. So like luxury property, penthouses, new homes. But very rarely do people actually use those terms on social. The connection between how people search on Google and how people talk on social isn't always direct. So this process sort of pincers that and lets you listen to the influencers that are relevant to new homes. They might not talk and use new homes in their tweets. So you still get to flavor of what's going on, and allows you to build better strategies.
That's a really important point, is you shouldn't take the social chatter for being search terms. You should look at the social chatter as understanding your audience and better creating content. What do you think, Vanessa?
Yeah, absolutely. I've worked on an account in the past where, for example, the client was an insurance underwriter, and they would always write content for their intermediaries, and we couldn't understand why no one was converting for this content. But intermediaries call themselves brokers, and people who use intermediaries call them brokers as well. So when we just changed that one word, we saw a much bigger increase in engagement, just by little things, by understanding what our audience really means. And I feel like it's so important to understand the audience first from a UX perspective as well, because SEO is much more than just driving traffic to your page. If they get there and they have a terrible experience, then you've almost wasted that SEO investment in the first place.
Brilliant. I mean, that point of vocabulary is incredibly important. If you talk to somebody like Bill Slawski, who talks about context clouds, the vocabulary is phenomenally important. I think, Rory, you would agree. Bringing in the vocabulary from your social audience and making it accurate in terms of what they're actually talking about is going to be incredibly important.
Yeah.
I completely agree, Jason and Vanessa. The huge point there. I think the one thing that we experienced in the sort of serviced office space in the UK, which obviously at the moment is in the space it's in, but it wasn't for a long time. It was a very big growth space and industry, and what we noted was there was an emerging keyword segment for co-working outside of the traditional serviced offices X location. But what you needed it was different competitors ranking in the co-working search results to the serviced offices search results, but the inventory did overlap. So we created pages for co-working. So to your point, Vanessa, it was about understanding that the UX of that page, the people wanted to read more about co-work. It wasn't just for search engines, it wasn't just for relevance, but of course that was important. And then crucially, we identified that not just through, to your point, Jason, not just through keyword data from Google and Google Ads and SEMrush, but also through social listening to understand that actually there's much more chatter about co-working than there is about serviced offices. We need to start exploring this space. And it was really interesting because you could then start to combine co-working with other topics to see what was trending the most, to do the PR campaigns and the content that drove the results. So it's fascinating how it all links. I know that's what you're fascinated in, Vanessa, right? That loop.
Yeah. We're looking at that kind of, the word is getting overused, but the holistic strategy is you can't just say, let's pin it all on SEO. Vanessa, talk about how we bring all this together.
Oh, yeah, that's a great question, Jason. Thank you. So my view really is that people, they don't really know how they think. We don't know how we think. So we think we know what we think, but if you really if you had to fill in a survey, for example, you would answer the questions as you would like to be or as you think you are. But then if you were in the real world, you had to actually perform the action that you've just been surveyed about. You might do something completely different and unexpected. So I really feel like it's so important to bear that in mind when you do the keyword research, that what people are typing into Google relates sometimes to what they think as opposed to what they really think. And when they get to the page, they need something that speaks to the sort of lizard brain side of them, so that makes them want to buy or take the action you want them to take, as well as giving them something that they can kind of logically retrofit to their prefrontal cortex and justify the big Porsche to their wife or something like that. You've got to make it work for all the parts of the brain. And that means it's much more than just what have you typed into a search engine. It's got to be, what is your deep desire? Who are you really on the inside? And what are you trying to get out of this? What your search intent, as you were saying, Rory, it's so important.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, I love that. And the idea of what we think isn't necessarily what we truly think. What we think we will do is not what we necessarily do. So actually asking people the question isn't that helpful, but spying on them, if I might say so, Rory, is actually a really powerful way of looking at what people truly do and what they truly say. You're going to say something there.
Yeah, no, I think it's absolutely the case. I think that what the key point as well, to go to the whole point around social listening and whether or not it's the people themselves that tweet what they think, or it's the influencer entities of the people that post on their behalf. So you have to almost, I might be an avid Twitter user and search in Google for the topic that I'm interested in and be a potential customer via SEO, or acquire via SEO in Google or Bing or whatever. But actually, I'm not going to start tweeting about how I feel. But the publishers or the influence entities are monitoring my engagement data and looking at what I'm doing on their sites that is informing their strategy, and they're doing the detailed, research into So you need to listen to the influencer entities as a reflection of the audience, to indicate what they're thinking, rather than them saying it directly on Twitter. And that's one of the key points to make, I think, through this whole process.
Brilliant. Can we get into the nitty gritty? We've got a couple of questions from the audience. So Photos by Orion, I think you predicted this question yesterday, Rory. For all these tools you're suggesting in this strategy, what is the cost? In other words, if I was to employ this as strategy, how much would it cost me each month? And that's obviously a big worry. Can we do it for free? I think is always the question.
Yeah, I think so. You could hack it for sure. To some degree, I think it depends if you're going for enterprise or a sort of bootstrapped approach. I think an example. So the ideal solution in terms of costs, couldn't tell you for sure at this stage. I know that both, so we referenced in this the likes of course SEMrush and Audience, both of which have free versions and trials that you can use. And I think that's where to start. That's the safe space to play. If you're talking about cost, do check out the free versions of those tools, and then you can evaluate whether or not for you it's gonna work for building a strategy. But in terms of doing it around, I think budget-wise, probably to do it with everything stacked in together, you're probably looking at a grand plus a month. But this is quite an enterprise level strategy. So your tool tech stack for an SEO department might be 1.5K plus. It could be 500 plus. It could be more. I think if you wanted to keep the costs low, do try the free trials and see how much you can get out of it, and then you'll no doubt be dragged in and probably want to get the full tool. I know I'm like that, but then what you should do if not is you can do a lot of the keywords research to some degree. You could do it in Google yourself and start to just take a manual process. I mean, it'd be time consuming. You might be better off paying for the tool if you then evaluate your time. And then with the influence entity analysis, that you would need to invest in. But at that point, you could look to just upload your SEO competitors that you see in the search results into Hootsuite, for instance, and then monitor in your own manual dashboards what they're talking about. I think the tools are powerful at allowing you to coordinate across teams very, very effectively. So my recommendation, to just summarize, to do it cost effectively, do access the free versions of the likes of SEMrush and Audience and try it out. And then also look at Google yourself for the keyword segments that matter, manually record for as many as you can in the time, the top ranking websites, then upload their Twitter accounts into Hootsuite, the free version of the Twitter tweet tracking and tweet deck sort of tool, and then monitor that way. And you're still going about that process of thinking about audience first, but at a keyword level.
Right, okay, so your trick question then is, would you invest more in Hootsuite if you had to invest in only one of the platforms? Just upload your competitor to Hootsuite and use that?
I wouldn't, because what the problems with that will be, the nice thing about that is that's an opportunity for people who want to adopt this process, but wouldn't have the budget to do so. But there's lots of benefits that you would get through using the tools, and I think automation and speed is one. I think what you won't get in this is the ability to identify your SEO competitors at scale using SEMrush's full suite. Also we talked about influence entities. So yes, you could upload the Twitter accounts of the entities that rank well in Google for the keyword segments that matter, but the likes of Audience is super powerful because it then does its big data analysis and goes out and grabs through affinity and big data analysis all the other accounts that community engages with, that then casts your net wider. Yeah.
Well, 100%. I mean, I'm actually looking kind of to identify options for people who don't have the budget, where a lot of the smaller companies will be watching this. Vanessa, have you got tips and tricks of how, I mean, Rory mentioned $1,000 or €1,000, £1,000. That's probably too much for many of the people watching. Are there tips and tricks that you could suggest that would help people move forwards in Rory's great idea or great process without investing $1,000 a month?
Yes, absolutely. I think that what Rory says is so true, that the the more you invest, the more flexibility you have, because everything can be automated and it's scalable and you get a lot more data. But for example, when I started my agency, we had really tiny clients. And so what we used to do was do a lot of the work manually, which, as you say, Rory, is quite time consuming, but it can be interesting. And it teaches you the philosophy behind the tools, which is also very useful.
Yeah.
And you can use tools like Hootsuite and SEMrush, those were the ones that we standardized on. And then you kind of have to cobble it all together quite manually. But if you have a really strong relationship with your SEO and PR teams and your social media teams, then you can actually test things on different channels and see what works. So it's much longer, but it's quite effective because you can experiment and do kind of A/B testing and then develop your data over the course of time. You just have to be willing to invest the time in that case.
Yeah,
that's absolutely lovely. We have a question from Patty Delibovi. Is the affinity score a 1 to 100 rank, Rory?
In audience platform, yes, it is. So it's what you will be able to do is start to experiment. So if you got into the platform, you can start to create various audience insights reports, and then there's a varying degree of how you use. Well, basically, the best way to do it is to analyze the affinity scores in combination with setting filters on uniqueness scores, because uniqueness score is another score that it gives you. So if you're looking to go to a niche segment, you might be still looking at lower affinity scores, but it's still noted. It's like, in Google, if you're optimizing for SEO, you're optimizing for B2B, for instance, a B2B niche industry, and then you find keywords that have 10 to 20 search volume. You're not going to ignore them. So even when you get down to the lower affinity scores, it's still a notable affinity. And if you start to use the uniqueness scores logically and in a process manner, in a sort of structured manner, you can filter down to the sort of hidden insights, those insights you would never normally have found. And that's what we're doing with our tool, working with audience at the moment, is building in that sort of automation of that with some views. So hopefully can chat more about that soon. And if anyone wants to reach out, we can go into the details.
So I mean, obviously the title says it all. It really is about understanding your audience, and understanding your audience is often associated just with Google search volumes and tools like SEMrush that just look at or in this particular instance, looking at the search volumes and the search terms. You're talking a lot about social media, and it's also a way to build links. So we're coming back to this holistic idea, Vanessa. Building links is something kind of we all need to do. It's terribly time intensive, it's terribly difficult, and terribly depressing because it doesn't work as fast as we want it to. Rory was talking about how this can help with the link building. What do you think about his approach to that?
Yeah, my thoughts on link building are maybe a little bit controversial, but I feel that really great content would naturally begin to attract links. Because I think if you're creating good content, first of all, you're serving all your search engines because they just want to serve their audience. So if you serve their audience, you're doing their job for them. And the same is true of publishers. So if your content is really good, publishers will want to reach out to you. They'll want to link to your content, and people will be sharing your content. And I think it becomes quite easy then to reach out to a publisher that you've identified through Rory's method and say, you spoke about this really interesting subject. We have this fantastic article on it. It supports what you've said. Here's a link. And, I think it would really boost your chances of getting that link because it's so much more relevant and timely. And that's really the key thing. As long as it's timely and relevant, you're very likely to get that link, especially if you've done your homework.
Sorry, it just made me think, what Rory's talking about is spying on the world through social media means that when you do reach out to these platforms, these media sites, that you are talking about what they're talking about at the time they're talking about. Rory?
Exactly, and I think just to support the point as well, Jason, you're mentioning about people find it can be a nightmare, and Vanessa, you're talking about making sure that it's relevant and it's what people want to publish. I think we did a survey actually, Symmetrical and Audience, of 150 SEO professionals last year, and we found that only 16% of SEO professionals, and that includes content digital PR teams, are actually using social data to define their SEO strategy. But 40% of them struggle with content ideation and finding link opportunities. 88% want a more efficient way to prospect link opportunities at scale or just to find them. And 63% didn't think just keyword data alone gave them enough insights. But what the important thing is, you need the keyword data to set the guidelines of where you focus your social analysis, because I've been in scenarios before where SEO departments, you get the new shiny social listening audience intelligence tool, and it's brilliant, the power's there, but you just need to understand, how to use it. And this approach funnels that through. Or the approach should work as well in the more manual process if you can't access the tools. And would love to talk through that with anyone that wants to learn to sort of hack our way through it. But yeah, it's a stark. The pain points are clear. And I really hope that this process can help people to start to address that. And
no, lovely. I love the process. I love the idea, and I love the way it all kind of fits all this together through this kind of spying on people through social media. But one thing that did strike me in what you just said is scaling link building. Isn't that a contradiction in terms, Vanessa?
Yeah, that is a really good question. In my experience in PR and link building is quite limited, but when I have done link building outreach, it's really been focused very much on this is great content and it's timely. And I've never thought of scaling link building to that degree. I'm quite interested in that, Rory.
Oh, Rory, off you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So by that, basically, so it's scaling your efforts in terms of being able. So what we find and what we know that other SEOs find is it's would like a new more efficient way of prospecting link opportunities. So potentially the language I used would be intriguing, but maybe slightly misleading there. I think what it is if through that process you saw, if we created and uploaded our SEO competition for a keyword group that was important, you would use an audience insights tool to then identify with a couple of clicks through social behavioral data all of the other potential link opportunities, partnerships, relevant brands, influencer, advocates, brand ambassadors, because otherwise it takes a long time to do that. And yeah, you can look at link data, and that's what we've done. That's what SEOs traditionally do. But I personally feel like when you look at link data in tools, there are improvements being made, but it can be a bit slow, it can be a bit static. Linking is slower. Social data is fast, and it's really the true reflection of how people engage. Links, unfortunately, still are and can be bought in a way, so it's not always a true reflection. Whereas what people engage with on social through audience insights is a true reflection, and really help you find them all really quickly, and then plan your campaigns for that. But you can scale it in that way, more efficiency.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So it's more about focusing and prioritizing than scaling, in the sense of getting boatloads of links, which I think is really important. I think it's important to understand that everybody understands that links are slow by definition because of the nature of links, and the idea of focusing and prioritizing is incredibly important. Not wasting time doing it manually.
Exactly.
We actually do have a question from Anup G, and they're interested in, can you tell me more about keyword gaps, buyer keywords, easy to rank keywords, and keyword opportunities? I mean, for me, this is once again saying, where do I find the targets, and how do I find the easy targets?
I'm happy to jump on this one. Okay. So with the keyword intelligence process, I think the best route would be to you do your identification, look at your look at the keywords that your competitors rank for in SEMrush. Look at the keywords that you just think from your hierarchies, website structures of you and your competitors are relevant topics. Upload those into SEMrush. Gather the all of the associated keywords. Build out that big list. You can use keyword bulking tools, and segment them into logical topics and themes. Clean them. Get rid of as much as you can of what's irrelevant, because you get a lot of irrelevancy probably still at times with everything. With what we do, it's all about relevance, so refining down. And then the crucial thing there is about, when you've got your keywords, tagging them up based on what feels like a logical topic or subtopic. And I know that we're just getting to the point of finding the opportunity, and then it's all about then uploading them at scale into a ranking tracking solution, or exporting that data out, creating a pivot table, and going, okay, so we've seen that our competitor X is ranking for this cluster of keywords. That's an indicator that Google deems that keyword segment is relevant to them, we can say that their site is relevant to ours. Therefore, and their product they're promoting or their blog post is certainly something we can talk about, but we're not visible. The data is showing we don't rank for any of these keywords. Our average rank's not there because we don't. They've got loads of keywords ranking, or a couple, and they've got a good rank. They're second or third. Let's go and prioritize creating a blog post or a new service or a new page that's relevant and maps or is modeled off the same type of page templates that indicate the user intent of that search query. And basically, you're going to have to look at, SEO is massive. There's so many signals from technical through to content quality through to UX, which of course Vanessa is been speaking about. And then you're going to have to whittle down and create that better piece of content that better answers the query. Finally, an absolute gem of an approach is if spot the keywords that you are ranking for, but are generally quite long tail. But let's say you're in the second half of page 2 with a more generic page. It works especially well in B2B. You can then, I like the expression of rolling the dough out a bit more, but you'll often find that you can create, let's say you're looking at DDoS solutions. It's a website protection software. It's something in my head. But you want to rank enterprise DDoS solutions. The potential clients with big money, you want to invest in your services if you provide web security, and you rank 6th, and you can see that in your data. But then all above you, there's specific pages that are enterprise DDoS solutions and not just your generic DDoS solutions page. Immediately, that's an opportunity to create a more hyper relevant page, do smart internal linking, and you should see some growth, or you optimize your page further for that relevance. So those are 2 methods of finding opportunities where you don't rank using competitors, and secondly, seeing where you do rank on the mid page to bottom of the page, and then seeing if you either need to re-optimize that to make it more relevant or to create a new page entirely that's hyper relevant, like the enterprise example that I gave there.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's nailing intent and making that hyper relevant content actually answers the questions. Vanessa, obviously that's kind of something we're all really looking to do. And I think, Rory, your idea there is saying, look, where you're not ranking, are you answering the question sufficiently explicitly? Vanessa, what are your techniques for actually digging out that content? Because it isn't always obvious for people which is the content I can actually work on, which are the articles or the pages I can actually create that will generate this hyper-specific traffic.
I think what Rory's described is a really good process, and that's very similar to what I would do, is to identify which pages could be ranking but aren't, and should be ranking because it's the right solution for what people are looking for, and then try and understand why they're not ranking. And then that comes down to, have you got the right keywords? Are some of your other pages cannibalizing those pages? Is your technical SEO right? So, have you got a canonical link that's taking someone away from your page for some reason? And if you need to, put some of those pages together into one so that you've got a hub page that's more powerful, and then that should start driving your page up the rankings over time.
Absolutely beautiful. And that brings me delightfully on to Charlie Russell's question. Do you think audience and content strategy can still have an impact without solid technical SEO implementation? You mentioned canonicals. We still need technical, Vanessa?
Yeah, so absolutely. From my perspective, SEO has 3 vital pillars, and it's technical SEO, PR and backlinks, and good content. I think you can do a great job with any one of them, but it'll never be as powerful as all 3 together. And really, if you're driving people to your website because your keywords are great and your content is great, and then they get there and the technical SEO is not there, that's going to be terrible for your site in the long term. And also, it'll obviously impact search engines' likelihood of sending people to your site because they'll be seeing the SEO before they see the content. So if you've got too many redirects, or your page is really slow, or your core web vitals aren't right, that's not going to be great at all for your user experience, which is the whole point of technical SEO, is user experience at the end of the day. So I would say you can have an impact, but probably not as much as you would if you also had solid technical SEO.
Yeah, no, I think kind of the technical SEO aspect. I mean, I did an interview with Fabrice Canel from Bing, who's Mr. Bingbot. He's the boss of Bingbot. And everybody at Bing, I talked to five people at Bing, and they all said without him, we couldn't even begin to rank anything. So basically, if he can crawl it, and he mentioned the fact that he actually tags the data, he tags the information before he puts it in the index. And everybody, all these algorithms rely on the capacity of that robot to pick up the information and put it in a database in a manner that they can actually leverage and access easily and simply. He annotates, there's an annotative layer across all this information. So the technical SEO is the foundation, and if you miss that, you're going to miss the entire boat. Rory?
Completely agree. I mean, with any sort of account we would take on, or any project, one of the first things that we'll address if it's an established site is our technical SEO audit, and look at various different components within that. I mean, I've seen, I'm sure everyone here in SEO has seen technical SEO blunders, where whole proportions of the site suddenly get no indexed, or robots, the text file changes and everyone, suddenly everything drops. But I think that's quite sensational examples. I think what we've seen, we have a brilliant technical SEO team at Symmetrical, and I think one of the things that we know is we can inherit sites if we take on clients and they've got a lot of content there, but say the internal linking infrastructure is just not optimized as it should be, or there's modules that should be implemented that will suddenly even out or increase internal link flow to certain pages, basically restructure the hierarchy so that it better suits how we see the market searching. And that can obviously have quite a significant impact even before we get to content and links. And of course, also with technical, you've got the aspect of, which I would class under technical, it's sort of technical UX side of things, but mobile and core web vitals and speed and who knows what's coming really, but making sure that the site is technically sound to speed up delivery of pages is something that we look at straight away. And I'm sure that many SEOs at the moment are getting clients, friends, family calling them up and worried about what's coming, and just making sure that you get your site technically sound, and from a speed perspective, especially on mobile, is absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful. Delightful answer. Thank you very much. We're coming towards the end. I actually, Rory fed me some questions before the show, and I like the last one, which is, what have been some of your most exciting and successful SEO campaigns to date? I'll start with Rory because we can finish off with this. Exciting. I like the word exciting. Can we go for some exciting SEO campaigns, Rory, and then Vanessa?
Yeah, sure. So I will take, we worked with, it was a campaign I was involved with heavily a number of years ago now, a couple of years ago. It spanned a 2-3-year period. It was for a company called Fish for Jobs. They are a UK recruitment board. And the overall performance KPIs from it is we built out a career advice blog, and we took it from 15,000 organic sessions a month to 200,000 sessions a month, which obviously exceeds 1 million in a year, which is a nice figure. And obviously a lot of that was helping people to find their next path in their career. We went through, when I say exciting, it gets exciting very much from the links side and audience side, but we got all of our pieces in place. We identified every which way someone searches during the job search process using our keyword intelligence process. That involved creating about 150 CV templates, structuring our career advice blog with pillar pages, support sub pillar pages, the whole lot, beautifully structured. And then it was okay, so now we need more links. I had a lot, but we needed to create a campaign that really resonated. So we saw that instead of just doing a link campaign that was about jobs and about how to, it can get a bit boring quite quickly. We looked at the audience and we looked at what influencer entities were important to them. And we noted that obviously a key, they were sort of the backbone of Britain type roles, as we classed the campaign as. And then we built, we identified that football was incredibly important to them. And people also talked about salary and about positives, about concerns, and the two of them, we saw that they were very, very linked, and it was a big part of, it was an interest and of course a key part of the job search process. Everyone's salary is important. So what we did is we looked at the average salaries using analysis from ONS. We looked at the salaries of the average salaries in different regions of the UK, and we mapped on top of that the lowest cost season ticket of the football club that was relevant to their region. So we created the Premier League table of season ticket affordability, and it was great. We've got a design team involved, pitched it out, and covered in most nationals. We were in a snippet in one of the nationals. It might have been the Sun or the Star or something like that, or the Mirror or something. But we were in a snippet, and their volumes, whatever your were massive. So we got links from everywhere. We saw the traffic take off. I actually had a call from Everton Football Club complaining about their inclusion on the list, and there was some chats about that, but it was all resolved. But it was really fun because it was very relevant to what the audience cared about, generated a significant amount of links, and we watched how the traffic just shot up. It was about a week or so, less than that, 4 or 5 days after the link flurry and coverage, and burst all over social as a result. I loved it. Really, really good fun.
Oh, we all love those exciting, fun stories. Vanessa, tell us your exciting, successful SEO campaign that you really want to share.
To be honest, it feels difficult to follow that amazing story, but mine is a little bit, it sounds like a vanity metric. And what happened was I was supporting a client in the health insurance industry, and they didn't have any SEO at all. So they didn't know what to shoot for as kind of a North Star goal, as we call it at Blue Array. So we decided the word health insurance, it would be really good if we ranked for that, because we didn't at all. Mm-hmm. So we just did it was actually, in the long run, it was quite small things, but it was a lot of work where we created content. We also culled a lot of content that was completely irrelevant, and then worked on backlinks. And it took us about 6 months, and we got to page 1 of Google for health insurance, which is a highly competed term. So that was really great. And we stayed there for about 6 months before they changed the whole company and SEO team. But it was very exciting to watch that traffic grow. And the really great thing was, at the end of the day, we did see an increase in both digital and telesales sales as a result of that. So that's really satisfying, because you can actually see it impact the bottom line.
Which is absolutely brilliant. So we've got the hare and the tortoise, and they both get to the finish line. And everybody's happy. That's absolutely delightful. Thank you so much, Rory. That was a great presentation. That's an amazing process. Thank you, Vanessa. I've been delighted to meet you and listen to you and hear your insights. Thank you to the audience for watching. Please do remember to subscribe to the channel, to like the video. You will get Rory's slide deck after. You can come back and watch all this again if you want to watch his presentation again, or listen to what Rory and Vanessa shared after the presentation. Please do come back next time. We love having you. We love talking to you. We love sharing. Do we not, Rory and Vanessa?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time. And Vanessa, Jason, brilliant session. Thank you.
You too. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
See you soon.